Legend Story Studios have just announced the June 2023 Armory Kit, and boy oh boy, is it a juicy one. So it features the new Cold Foil, Flail of Agony, as well as the extended art Rainbow Foil, Phantom Banshee, and a new playmat art design, Requiem of the Damned. So whether or not this amounts to an actual playable card, who knows? I will just say that it is an angelic stylized card, so it may have a connection to the 8 Archangels of Solana that we will see in Dusk Till Dawn. The other playmat, of course, is just listed as Dusk Till Dawn and features the glorious stained glass artwork that I do very much love. Granted, I do wish they cropped it a little bit cleaner. We didn't have some of this architectural overhang. It was just the framing of the stained glass windows. But hey, that's just my little gripe. Okay, so then on to the juicy stuff. So the Flail of Agony and Phantom Banshee. They give us our first look into Visette. So the Flail of Agony is a Visette specialization. Once per turn action, pay 1 life, attack. And when this hits, create a rune. What could the rest of that be? Well, I'm pretty sure it's obvious to anyone reading this that it is, of course, a Runechant token. That fits the bill, right? So whenever this hits, create a Runechant token. So you're essentially trading 1 life for a Runechant token. Is that worth limiting it just to Visettes? It's already a Shadow Runeblade weapon, so it's only applicable to Chain. And now Chain is banned from Classic Constructed, but his younger self is still available for Blitz. So would it be OP for Chain to utilize? I'm not too sure. I think outside of lore implications, it might not be too necessary to actually make it a Visette specialization, but we'll see what the lore amounts to. And then we can also see, given the fact that the text will only run to about here, that there is no go again on the weapon. So it is only a once per turn action that will consume your action points unless you have a way to generate them or a way to tie in go again to a weapon. So that's interesting itself because at face value, it's 1 damage, 1 life for 1 Runechant token, which then deals 1 arcane damage. And we haven't seen Shadow Runeblade lean too heavily on the whole Runechant to decrease costs or make things more playable, except for Phantom Banshee. This is our first look at a new keyword, Runegate. Now, I understand it is a bit illegible, even zoomed in, it's even worse, but we can sort of make something out, right? If you control Runechants equal to or greater than Phantom Banshee's resource cost, you may play it from your banished zone without paying its cost. So in itself, it looks like Shadow Runeblade is now going to latch onto a lot of what we saw in Vizari, where we're able to pay for cards using Runechants. So we saw cost deduction not through any keywords, but just through statements like this. Reduced to Runechant costs resources less to play for each Runechant token you control. Amplify the Arknight costs resource less to play for each Runechant you control. Now we're seeing that directly tied to a keyword. However, that keyword does then play off the Banish Zone, which then links it to Blood Debt. So we're also seeing the return of Blood Debt for our key Shadow mechanic, which makes sense. I doubt they'd step too far away from that as a core mechanic of a Shadow character's playstyle. But curious enough, this implication, the fact that we have Runegate relying on Runechants and the Flail of Agony generating Runechants, well, it sort of seems like Visette is going to move away from Soul Shackle. So Soul Shackle was the tokens generated by Chain, and what does it do? Well, for a reminder, if we scroll down, it does, at the beginning of the action phase, banish the top card of your deck. So essentially, it is just a enabler for a lot of the Shadow mechanics to be able to play from your Banish Zone. Bit interesting, because at a cursory glance, we see that Blood Debt and playing from your Banish Zone is still something really apparent within Shadow Runeblade. But at the same time, it looks as though Visette is going to have an ability more in line with that of Vizari, being able to just generate Runechant tokens to then nullify costs while still using the core Shadow principles to banish cards to play from their Banish Zone with, again, that new keyword, Runegate. Now, for me personally, this is a great step to making Visette a more of a unifier for the core Runeblade mechanics. I do have a little bit of a concern that Visette is now way too applicable to either archetypes of both Vizari and Chain. If there is some level of crossover between Runechant and Soul Shackle, well, we could see Visette dominate just as well as Chain and Vizari have done in their respective areas. So, for instance, Vizari has Living Legend status in Blitz, and then, of course, Chain has Living Legend status in Classic Constructed. So, I guess it all comes down to whether or not Visette has their own Go Again generator, much like Chain, which really enables the comboing of different cards, or as any Soul Shackle mechanic to then enable even more cards to be put into your Banish Zone to now make use of, again, that new keyword RuneGate. I'm also curious because I can't quite make it out, but it does sort of look like the flail is one-handed instead of two-handed like normal Runeblade weaponry. So that could open up a few different possibilities to combo in some nice other cards or even just run 2 Flails of Agony. Though how you combo the Flails together to actually hit twice in one turn is yet to be seen. The other question to ask yourself is this worth playing over either Nebula Blade or Galaxy Black? Because Nebula Blade enables you to generate more Runechant tokens, which then plays even better into RuneGate, enabling you to play more of your banished cards. And then Galaxy Black actually plays off of, again, playing banished cards. So both seem to synergize a little bit better than the Flail of Agony with this new RuneGate keyword. It'll be very interesting to see what Vyzet's ability is in itself. Again, if it is some level of generating Soul Shackles to enable you to banish more cards to play, well, then we have a huge crossover possibility between the new Shadow Runeblade cards that actually benefit from Runechant and are only available to Vyzet or Shane, than Vizari. So it all comes down to what do we expect Vyzet's personal hero ability to be. If it is something that allows them to continue to generate and make use of Soul Shackles, well, we might see that they completely eclipse Chain in their ability to synergize not only with the new Runechant mechanic, but still be able to banish cards to play, again, making even greater synergistic use of RuneGate. If they just generate Runechant tokens, that in itself may be powerful enough to utilize the new Shadow Runeblade cards over the previous existing ones from Monarch, which don't have any synergy or correlation to Runechant whatsoever in any of their abilities. Overall, it appears that we are getting a quite drastic evolution to Shadow Runeblade in the fact that they are now going to synergize a lot better with the core Runechant mechanic of Runeblade that we saw with Vizari, benefiting from this new RuneGate mechanic that currently is only on a Shadow Runeblade action, and therefore only available to Vyzet or Chain in Blitz, and not Vizari. All in all, this armory kit is a nice little look into what Dusk Till Dawn will potentially hold, and it is awesome to see some new support for Shadow Runeblade. I always personally thought that all of the Shadow heroes were a bit too far of a step away from the core mechanics of their original selves. So for instance, Chain with the Soul Shackle mechanic rather than using any sense of Runechant was a little bit odd to me. But now we're seeing a sort of middle ground where they synergize a lot better between the two. We have both Blood Debt and then the ability to use Runechant to make Blood Debt essentially go away, as you can play these cards from your Banish Zone at a far reduced cost. So what do you think of the cards spoiled in this armory kit? Are you excited to see what Vyzet has to offer in Dusk Till Dawn?